Now, one of many multi-million-dollar scandals in the city of Chicago and pretty much throughout the state of Illinois was a hired truck program. This was a multi-million-dollar sweetheart deal between Richard Daley and a lot of his friends, as well as several outfit guys. I remember Lococo LaMattia complaining to me how they took away all his trucks back in 2004. Now, I'm sure most of you remember the hired truck program in the great city of Chicago. Mayor Daley and a lot of his rich, powerful friends built taxpayers out of millions of dollars. They set up their family, friends with multi-million-dollar contracts throughout the city of Chicago, and some of them still exist to this day. There's Mayor Richard Daley. I think he retired at the perfect time. He was definitely about to get indicted on something. A lot of the old Chicago heavyweights despised this mayor. A couple guys at Richards told me they wish he had a heart attack when he was a baby. Mayor Daley and a lot of his friends put together the hired truck program and made millions of dollars in sweetheart contracts in the city of Chicago. Now here's multimillionaire trucking executive Fred Barbara, an associate of the Chinatown crew. His name came up during the family secrets trial. Nick Calabrese testified that he participated in a few bombings. This guy is very close with Mayor Daley, one of his best friends, and his family goes back to the Roadies and the Carusos in Bridgeport. Now, when Mitchell Mars asked Nick Calabrese on the stand about Fred Barbara and his involvement in the Chinatown crew, Nick testified that he participated in 2 fire bombings that he knew of, one at Horthweth's restaurant and the other at a cartridge trucking company in Bridgeport. This gentleman, Fred, he denied all mob connections and was a very close friend to Mayor Daley. I remember one day in court, Nick Calabrese testified that Angelo LaPetria, his brother Jimmy the Lapper LaPetria, and Jimmy DeForty Poker, that the 3 of them bombed Horwath's restaurant in Elmwood Park. He wasn't sure why the place got firebombed, and the government could never corroborate this. Therefore, Fred was never charged in the firebombing. Now here's Horwitz, a well-known Chicago outfit hangout back in the day, located in Elmwood Park, right near 1800 North Harlem Avenue. Nick testified in great detail that 3 heavyweights from the Chinatown crew, that they firebombed this place. He wasn't sure why. He did not participate in it, but this is something that he testified to. Nick C. also testified that him, his brother Frank Calabrese, John Big Stu Feccarata, and Jimmy Poker DeForty, that they bombed Tom's Steakhouse on North Avenue right there in Melrose Park. He went on to say he wasn't sure why all these places were being targeted for bombings and that he never asked questions. He just followed orders. Now, Nick testified on the stand that John Feccarata on the left, Frank Calabrese Sr. on the right, and himself, that they bombed the Drury Lane Theater in Oak Brook. They also bombed Tom's Steakhouse, and that Fred Barbara and the LaPetria brothers bombed Horwath's and Marina Cartridge. Now here's a guy I never heard of prior to the family secrets trial, but he was discussed a lot, was James DeForty, a guy they called Poker. Frank Calabrese was very paranoid. He thought that Poker was going to become an informant and snitch. However, he did not. Nick Calabrese testified that Poker participated in at least 2 bombings with the LaPetria brothers. Now, Nick testified very casual, low monotone voice that he didn't see Fred, Barbara, or participate with Fred, Barbara, Angelo LaPetria, and Jimmy LaPetria in the bombing of the restaurant Horwatz because him, his brother, and John Theckerata, they were busy that night bombing the Drury Lane Theater in Oak Brook. Any fire-related crime like this is automatic 25, 30 years. Now, a fierce competitor back in the day of Fred, Barbara was Marina Cartridge, right there also in Bridgeport in the old Stockyard neighborhood. Nick Calabrese testified that the Chinatown crew firebombed this trucking company as well. Nobody was ever charged, but they know who the prime suspects were. Now, Nick testified that after the bombings, that the crews got together at John Theckerata, Frankie Calabrese, and No-No's hot dog stand to go over their little victories. If any of you know where this hot dog stand is or was, please let me know in the comments. But it was a hot dog stand, talked a lot about at the Family Secrets trial. Here's an old photo the prosecution showed at the Family Secrets trial of the Chinatown crew. On the left, you got John Theckerata, a made member of the Chicago outfit, a killer. He was killed by Nick Calabrese, as we know. He was talked about a lot at the Family Secrets trial. And then you got the LaPetria brothers, Angelo the Hook, the boss at the time, and his brother Jimmy. And then after Angelo went to prison, you got Johnny Apes, who took over, who eventually killed Ronnie Jarrett. Now, if any of you in the city of Chicago, I'm sure you've seen these big blue trucks owned and operated by Allied Waste. Fred Barbara is the president of this company. And not too long ago, Allied Waste was just rewarded a $17 million a year sweetheart contract. So obviously these sweetheart contracts still go in. I think this guy and his company were grandfathered in. Another $1 million trucking company that was part of the hire truck program was Flash Trucking in Cicero. Back in the day, Rocky and Felice had a piece of this company. Mike Large Sarno, Mike Spano as well. They did several millions of dollars with the city a year through the hire truck program. Now, going back to the glory days, you had the Palumbo brothers. Pete Palumbo and his brother, they owned and operated Orange Crush. They did millions of dollars of road work for the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois. They also paid the mayor, Ronald Stevens, millions of dollars in kickbacks for city contracts. Now, how many of you guys have seen the D&P big green waste hauling dumpsters? You'll see these throughout the city of Chicago, surrounding suburbs, at various residential and commercial construction sites. This company reaped the benefits of the hire trucking program, made millions of dollars. It was owned and operated by John and Petey DeFranzo. Here's D&P located in Melrose Park. Now, Nick testified of all the heavyweights that participated in the beatdown of the Spilotro brothers. When I first heard some of those names like Ferriola, Carlisi, I thought they wanted to be there to personally get their licks and stomps and kicks in. But some people think that Nick put those big names there just to make his story more believable. I want to know what you guys think, if you guys believe Nick when he said who was all there that day. Now, one of the main guys in the hired truck scandal was a Chicago associate called Nick Lococo. And shortly before the indictment, he mysteriously had an accident horseback riding and ended up getting killed. Some people think this was a suspicious play on the outfit's part. What do you guys think of Nick's accident?